Well, welcome to Love Has Many Faces. I'm your host, Marilyn Milano. And we do replay some conversations we've had. Sometimes we like to give a group a little extra love. And that is the case today. Heartwood Haven is in Pierce County, and they do great work with farm animals. Now, of course, we talk a lot about dogs and cats because they're the most common pet and so forth. But farm animals deserve our love, attention, and care. And so Heartwood Haven is a place that does a lot for these animals. And to that end, we're going to replay a conversation we had with them a few months back. We'll be talking to Kate from that organization. And for those of you who have not heard about it and would like to learn more, we encourage you to listen and check out what they're doing. And there are ways that you can help, either through donations or other support if you are so moved. So stay tuned, and we will come back with that conversation in just a moment. I am Marilyn Milano, your host of Love Has Many Faces here on Alternative Talk 1150.
Hi, I'm Coach Debbie from Story U Talk Radio, and I want to encourage you to write your book. Weekly, I offer topics about style and storytelling. I take your questions on our live show every Thursday at 4 o'clock, or you can subscribe to Story U, that's capital U, on any of your favorite platforms.
Wherever you go, Alternative Talk 1150 is here for you.
Well, welcome back to Love Has Many Faces. I am Marilyn Milano. And Kate, welcome. We are so glad to have you here today.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah. So in your own words, can you just tell our listeners what it is? I mean, we read something earlier, but what it is that Heartwood Haven is doing, maybe a little back history. And then I know there's been a recent case of roosters that were rescued. So maybe just some updating for people that either aren't aware or haven't kept up with what's going on.
Sure. So Heartwood Haven is a farm sanctuary. We're located in Roy, Washington. We're on a 45-acre farm here, and we rescue all kinds of farm animals, and sometimes not farm animals as well. And our focus is on working with law enforcement and government agencies on cruelty cases, as well as rescuing animals who are stray, neglected, abandoned, or even from laboratory research, and rehabilitate those animals, ideally find them forever homes. And we also want to spread that compassion. We have a humane education program. We also focus on environmental conservation and the intersections of all those things.
No, that's fantastic. We need all the help in those areas we can possibly get here on the planet. And so I'm always heartened to hear of this kind of work being done. How long has Heartwood Haven been around doing this kind of work?
Our 8-year anniversary is coming up in a couple months.
Great.
So 8 years. And we initially started on a much smaller property in Gig Harbor and moved to this farm 3 years ago.
Okay. Now, had you been doing rescue work before, or was this your first foray into that? Tell me a little bit how this happened.
Well, I've been working with animals for a very long time. So I grew up on my great-grandmother's farm back in the USSR. She had all kinds of farmed animals. And even as a little child, I would sneak my lunch to the pregnant mom dogs and try to rescue cats off the street. And later, I worked at a veterinary clinic for quite a long time, for about 6 years. I gathered a lot of skills there, and then I went on to to do research. I was in a PhD program in biological oceanography, and then I taught college science, and then ended up doing rescue work. So I've been working with animals for a long time and working within the biology kind of science space forever.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible. And I think it's always wonderful. We need everybody helping in this area that we can possibly get. But I think when someone comes from a scientific background, sometimes you have a little more clout with people who don't know what's really going on. Because a lot of us who are animal people think, well, we're just a bunch of soft-hearted people anthropomorphizing animals and giving them traits they don't really have. And, we're lovely people and we care. But when they talk to people in research, when they talk to people with a scientific background, then suddenly to those doubters, it becomes a bit more credible. So if you could tell people who are listening that maybe just have a very passing surface understanding of what's going on out there, what would you want them to know?
Yeah, so I know that there's some very interesting studies in animal cognition and emotional intelligence that have been done specifically on farmed animals because people tend to view farmed animals as less than and beneath domesticated animals like cats, dogs, or horses. And, these studies show that farmed animals have a emotional intelligence that's very similar to humans, where they can understand other animals' emotions, they can respond to them appropriately, even when it's another animal that is having these feelings and emotions. And there's a lot of studies. We rescue a lot of pigs. There's a lot of studies on pigs and just their intelligence itself is like they're in the top 10 smartest animals on earth. People probably, don't really want to believe it or they don't want to think about it. It makes people uncomfortable because we're very comfortable with domesticated cats and dogs being men's best friend, sharing our homes with us. And then we like to kind of think of farmed animals as, other.
Protein source.
Yeah, exactly.
And that is hard. First of all, I really appreciate any of the scientific studies that are coming out that show that indeed it's not just soft-hearted, whooshy people, attributing traits to animals that they don't really have. I mean, they're showing that they are capable of feeling and understanding. And when I hear this and when I see this, and I think of the terror that they feel when they're in the situations where they're about to be killed, the first thing, I mean, and I don't expect everyone to go meatless. I am not meatless. I'm trying to get there. I eat chicken and fish. So, I mean, chickens have feelings too. And if somebody else serves something, I don't generally make a fuss, but I won't seek it out. So I've weaned myself off of a lot of the things that I used to eat. But having been raised for years and needing a protein source, it's hard. So I really want to see more efforts where they can grow protein from cells. I mean, like the Impossible Burger was also an idea if people really had a need for a fix for meat to be able to get something that maybe resembled that. I would like to see us moving more in those directions. I'm hoping that as people come to understand that animals have feelings, that the least that we'll see is more humane farming and not these horrible things where animals have no dignity, where they're not even treated well before they're sacrificed for our food. One thing that really stuck with me about 35 years ago, I took a trip overseas and we were in the UK and there were all these adorable lambs on the hillside and I was just oohing and ahhing over the lambs. And they were all marked with blue or green powder of some kind. And then it was told to me that these were marked for slaughter. And that immediately changed everything. And, I really couldn't eat lamb at all after that. And I guess unless we see it or experience it, maybe it comes in small increments. But it is so easy to just think of the meat counter at the store and not think of what's happening to these animals. So, I mean, how do you feel about how hopeful it is or things that are being done? I mean, are people willing to hear? Are they willing to listen? Is there help to go this direction?
Well, that's a great question. 20 years ago, when I went vegan, people had no idea what the word meant. I didn't know what the word meant. And I watched a video and I was exposed to images of animals either going to the slaughterhouse, going through that process, or just in like CAFOs, confined animal feeding operations. And it really opened my eyes to what they go through. Even though I had grown up on a little farm, you're just exposed to the live animals there. You're not really exposed to the other side of it. I didn't think about it. I know that there's people who are maybe a little bit more mindful and do become aware of it, but I wasn't. And so then I became aware of what happens there and what happens in laboratory research with animals and all the horrible things that are done to them. And of course, these are sentient animals who just want to live their life just like we do. Um, and I decided to stop eating animal products. And at the time, because people didn't know what the word meant, a very small percentage of the population was vegan or plant-based. And so there weren't a lot of products on the market at the time. It was
Right.
hard to even get soy milk in a coffee shop. And now things are so different. I mean, it is just night and day. There's a whole, uh, you know, alternative milk section. There's a whole alternative protein section. There's like all this ice cream and cakes and Beyond Burgers and Impossible Burgers and all these things that are available in the market and cheeses that melt. And you literally can't taste the difference between, the animal based food and the plant based food. Um, and so we're definitely moving in that direction. I definitely see it. More people are plant-based now. More people are aware of the health benefits of it. More people are aware of what animals go through in order to get to the supermarket. Um, and so there's definitely more awareness. We're moving into that direction, but yet there's still so much power between the dairy and meat lobbies,
Yeah.
and so much money that goes into that it's hard to make progress.
Yeah, and I mean, in my way of thinking, like to the wide variety of people that I talk to and come across everywhere from vegan to like, no, I'm having my bacon every morning, whether you like it or not. You've got both extremes. But I think if people understood and thought about it and allowed themselves to think about it, even if they took some steps in the right direction and the steps weren't all at once, it would lessen the amount. And eventually, I think people would come around. Now, I am curious. You mentioned, we talked for a minute before we went on the air about the roosters that were rescued. Can you tell us a little bit about maybe a couple of the more recent rescues that have taken place and maybe something as well with lab animals? Because I personally, way back before I ever started thinking about what I was eating, like, 40 years ago, I became aware of the plight of laboratory animals. And what I was reading about that sickened me. I just couldn't even deal with it, and I had nightmares. So, I mean, maybe something about the rescues of these birds, and then maybe something having to do with some of the lab animals that Heartwood Haven has helped recently.
Sure, yeah. So recently we have just been absolutely swamped with rescues. It started with, we heard about a seizure that happened, I don't know, over a month ago in Grays Harbor, Washington, by the sheriffs there, where they seized nearly 100 birds on suspected animal fighting charges. And they were being held for the proper 2 week period where the people who had them have that time to petition to try to get them back before the sheriffs do what they do with them. And the time was coming to an end, and they still had these animals. And typically, what happens with cockfighting seizures is that all the roosters are euthanized. Ideally, it's in a humane way. More often than not, it's done not humanely. And a lot of times the sheriffs don't even care. In this case, the animal control officer really cared for animals and did not want these birds to be euthanized. And so she was really happy to hear from us because we worked on many cockfighting busts in the past. Last year, we took on 2 large-scale cockfighting busts. One was over 120 birds. So this time, there were nearly 80 birds that were seized. They transferred all of them to us. And then what we do is that we assess the birds. We deworm them, treat them for all parasites, do health testing, and then we find homes for them. And one of the biggest misconceptions with cockfighting is that cockfighting roosters are aggressive. Of course, if you're hearing cockfighting, fighting, you think aggression,
Yeah.
violence. These are mean birds. And that's probably what I thought as well before we rescued our first cockfighting rooster. He was actually our first farm animal rescue ever before Heartwood Haven was even something that we, thought of. And he turned out to be the coolest, sweetest, most charismatic guy ever who just loved to be around us and was very curious. He would go for walks with me through the neighborhood.
Oh,
We would go for car rides together. We have videos of this. He would hang out with us and the cats and the dogs. And he just wanted to be with us all the time.
mm,
So that's what these birds are like. The majority of them are wonderful companions. Over the years, we've rescued approximately 500 of these birds from cockfighting cases, and then we've rehomed them. Um, Most of them go to homes where there's a family, there's often, young children. They're really great at being good roosters. They find treats for hens. They're good with kids. I've got photos of, very young children holding these roosters and, naming them silly names as children do.
yes.
And so that's what we've been working on. We're now down to, I think, about 20 roosters, maybe even just under 20 roosters. So about 60 of them have found their homes.
That's great.
We're just working on the last few roosters. It's always more difficult at the end to find adopters. The hype from the rescue starts to die down.
Right.
But we're still, determined to find the rest of them homes, even if it takes a little bit longer.
Sure.
And I love hearing from the adopters afterwards about how their roosters are doing and just spreading that awareness that these guys, even though there's this misconception that they're very mean and aggressive, they're absolutely are not. They're just wonderful companions who now get to live really rich lives that were not possible before.
Right.
So yeah, cockfighting cases are definitely the most difficult cases that we deal with just because of this misconception that exists in society. And also because roosters are some of the most difficult animals to find homes for.
Right.
So difficult cases, but very, very fulfilling once they're done. And you can feel like you really made a difference and you took on this giant and you were able to beat this giant essentially.
Well, I mean, we need more of that. We need people understanding why. We need them to be aware. Again, heartwoodhaven.org, heartwoodhaven.org. You can learn more on that website. There's a place where you can donate if this type of thing touches your heart and you feel that it's valuable. Donations are welcome. There are ways to get involved. Now, again, I think when people I don't want to say dehumanize because they're not human, but when they look at, for example, cockfighting roosters as being mean, or when they look at animals as not really having feelings or whatever, it makes it easier to look away and to not think about what they might be feeling or going through. And it makes it easier to not address taking care of some of the injustices that they're suffering. And, I think people need to be aware. We just need to spread that farther and wider. And the same is, again, something that I started becoming aware of before I even became aware of the food issues, but just becoming aware of research and laboratories. Now, from what I'm reading, and please correct me if I'm wrong, some schools have gone to computer models. There is a trend toward going away from live animals as people become more aware, but there are still a number of institutions that do animal research, and these animals are suffering. So I'm just wondering about any laboratory rescues of late that might be of interest to our listeners.
Yeah, so lab research rescues are pretty difficult. We have to handle them with baby gloves. We typically work with other rescues that have connections with laboratory research labs that will actually release the animals once they're done testing on them. I believe that, the majority of labs euthanize the animals once they're done using them
Mm-hmm.
for research.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in these very few instances where they're willing to release the animals, we've run into the issue where we rescue the animal, we talk about the rescue, we obviously want to advocate for them, but somehow it gets back to the place where they came from, and that lab is not happy with us,
Mm-hmm.
because now we're advocating for not using animals for research.
Right.
Um, so yeah, definitely very difficult topics, kind of how do we talk about this? Because obviously we don't want these animals to be used as subjects, no matter what is being tested on them. And obviously there are some testing methods that maybe aren't as bad as others. But I know that, for example, just even like very locally to us, UW in Seattle does research on primates.
Yes.
They do research on pigs. They give pigs heart attacks. And these are very intelligent animals. I mean, for people, for whom intelligence matters. And they're very intelligent animals with, the capacity to be as smart as human children, who have emotional lives just like we do. And it's definitely, it's very sad that we continue these methods that I think most people probably don't agree with.
I can't understand it. I really think a lot of it is that people, A, turn away from it. They don't want to know what's really going on because it would rock them to their core. And then they might have to do something, God forbid, pick up the phone, write a letter, actually donate, do something. So I think there's a lot of not wanting to know. If I don't know, it won't bother me. And I mean, I just can't understand it. I can't imagine pitting birds against each other to fight to the death. I can't imagine wanting to do harm to an animal in the so-called interest of, quote, saving lives when there are other methods available and so many groups aren't doing that anymore. And then people try to paint you, if you support these animals, as some kind of a crazed left-wing radical that's going to go torch all the buildings and everything. No, we're actually empathetic people who care. We have hearts, we understand, we've probably had pets. It just breaks my heart. And I mean, I've always felt strongly about it. And I realize we're almost out of time. This is a topic we should have you back and talk more and maybe do a follow-up. But I just really want to get people to think about it. Think about what you're eating. Think about what's going on with the testing. Make yourself aware. Don't hide from it. Make yourself aware. And then do something. Maybe it's donating $5. Maybe it's sharing a website link. Before we wrap up, I mean, if you could encourage people to do one thing, Kate, what would that be?
There are a lot of things that people can do: donate, volunteer, get involved in whatever way possible. We always need volunteers. That's, an easy way to really get involved. And yeah, there's just so many rescues that need our help. So yeah.
And it sounds like you offer tours of the farm and let people come down and take a look at what's going on as well, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we have weekly tours that we offer as part of our, humane education program to get the community to come out. They get to meet the animals. We have so many people come out who just absolutely love, people come and they say, "Oh, I love pigs. I love turkeys. I love cows. I love, whatever animal they do." And they get to come out here. It's a very, it's an experience where you get to actually go in with the animals and rub their bellies and get licked by them. So you're not just standing from behind a fence. You actually get it to go in and see how they live and interact with them. It's a very interactive experience.
I think that's fantastic. Well, Kate, again, thank you for joining us to at least give all of us kind of an introduction to what your group is doing. I encourage people to go to heartwoodhaven.org and learn more. Maybe you'd like to volunteer if you're in the area, or perhaps even making a donation. But anything helps. This is certainly a worthy cause. And thank you for educating and caring and doing what you're doing. And thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much.
And we're going to take a short break and be right back. This is Marilyn Milano, your host of Love Has Many Faces. We've been talking to Kate Tsyrklevich from Heartwood Haven Rescue. It's a farm animal rescue. We'll be back in just a moment to wrap up.
Hi, this is Marilyn Milano, your host of Love Has Many Faces. The music that you're hearing during this show every week is exclusively original music from my own CDs. If you're enjoying it and would like to order a copy of one of my 2 CDs for yourself or as a gift, just go to marilynmilano.net and you can order directly from the website. I give a portion of every sale back to Animal Rescue because that's part of the whole cause. Thank you for listening and thanks for your support.
Welcome back to Love Has Many Faces. And again, it's always wonderful to learn of all the work that various folks are doing to help all kinds of our fellow creatures. Just a reminder, we are on the air at 9 to 9:30 in the morning Pacific time, and you can catch us on 1150 or you can catch us on the website. We are also podcasting now, so just type in Love Has Many Faces podcast or go to the place you usually find your podcasts and type that in. And we'll be there. We will pop up. So thank you. Please share with your friends who you think will be interested. By spreading the word, we can all raise awareness, touch hearts, and help save the lives of animals and help their people too. I'm Marilyn Milano, your host of Love Has Many Faces here on Alternative Talk 1150.